I'm told that neither time nor tide waits for man nor beast, and as the summer months are just round the corner, I thought it was time to get the grey Gurnard out of her winter hibernation. You may recall that at the end of last year I gave the 25 horsepower Mariner 2-stroke a major service, and not used it since. Because I'm planning a major multi-day adventure in the boat shortly, I wanted to test my work and the relative safety of Loch Etive. I also wanted to wet my fishing rods, as they too have been in hibernation for the winter. It felt fantastic having only a short drive to launch the boat and not have a 2-hour tow to reach the water. The shore at Kelly's pier is firm enough to drive on, and high tide makes the launch a doddle. I reversed the car until the trailer axle was just shy of the water, then got out, untied the bow and pushed. Yep, it really is that easy to single-handed launch with 4.2 metre Quicksilver rib. Because I was only using the boat for a day, I parked the car and trailer higher up the beach. My plan for multi-day trips is to launch the boat, drive the car and trailer back to the house, park up, then walk back to the boat. That way I won't need to leave a car and trailer several nights on a strange shore, which was always a little bit of a worry for me. The outboard started easily after a couple of pulls and ran sweet as a nut after the fogging oil cleared. I gently eased the Gurnard away from the shore in shallow drive as the water is not so deep here. I dropped the outboard to its normal operating position and then opened the throttle. She was off like a scalded cat and felt extremely fast after using the slower guppy for the past month. I had the auxiliary outboard in the boat simply because I couldn't find its tethering harness, as I still have stuff packed in boxes after the house move. It felt great to have a bit of power in my hands again. I didn't go too far before stopping though, as I wanted to feel what it was like bouncing a set of lures along the seabed. It had been a long time since I had done that. I set up for a slow drift in 80 feet of water at the entrance to Bonaw Quarry, once a favourite fishing mark of mine where I often caught cod or ling. However, this time I only caught a little Gurnard, which survived in the hope it will grow a little bigger. I dropped the lures to try my luck again, and this time, yep, another little Gurnard. Or perhaps it was the same one. I didn't want to catch it a third time, so I reeled in and headed off. I felt it far more fun flying up the loch at a decent speed than torturing these prehistoric looking minnows. However, course, the fishing bug still had me hooked, so I eagerly headed for another little bay where I had caught fish in the past, and soon I was throwing my weight about the bottom of the seabed again. And although I'm only a few feet from the banking, the fish finder showed it was 60 feet to the bottom. So I happily bounced along the bottom in a slow drift, delighted the bitter cold north wind had stopped, and before I knew it, I was soon bouncing along in 100 feet of water. That's when boredom set in, and I decided to reel in and try my luck somewhere else again. So once again I started the engine, and every time I started it, it went with one pull, and headed further up the loch. In truth, I was happy as a sandboy, as my main purpose of the day was to test the engine, and it was running sweet as a nut. And then, as sometimes happens, the fishing bug hooked me again. I decided to change tactics and stopped in 20 feet of water and put on a little silver map. I wanted to see if there's any silver-coloured fish about, so started spinning. Then 15 minutes later, I used the excuse it was far too bright for fishing in such shallow water, so it's time to try the engine again. So off I went. Approaching bar, the fishing bug once again caught me, so I set up a drift off the old steamer piers and started bouncing my weight along the bottom again. After 10 minutes or so of catching absolutely nothing, I get bored again. I do enjoy fishing as long as I get some results, but as nothing was biting, I landed at the old piers, tied up the boat, and went to sleep in the warm sun. And what a perfect place to chill out for a while now that the cold north wind has stopped blowing. Rested and relaxed, the fishing bug once again took over, so I got back in the boat and started bouncing my weight again. And this time I caught, you guessed it, another little Gurnard. I gave it another 10 minutes before getting really bored, so started the engine and headed further up the loch. And once again the fishing bug caught me, so I stopped and started bouncing again. It really was a lovely day for fishing. And once again I get bored after 10 minutes of catching nothing. Not that that really mattered, because my main aim was to test out the outboard, and it was working well. I guess as I neared the end of the loch, I get a little bored with my well-working outboard as well, because I decided to land and put on the auxiliary outboard. I had a simple plan behind my madness. I knew the end of the loch was quite shallow, so decided to try trawling the silver map in the shallow water, to see if there's any of those tasty silverfish around. My little auxiliary outboard goes better at a slow pace than the main outboard, and it's also good to give it a run now and again to keep it in working order. And so began my slow trawl round the head of Loch Etive. And although I never caught a thing, I didn't get bored this time, because it was such a lovely day and the scenery was stunning. In truth, I doubt I'll ever get bored living in the promised land, even when fishing and catching nothing. It's a pure pleasure being a pensioner and having a stress-free day at a slow and steady pace, even if I do have to eat spam instead of fish. I dropped the main outboard again, and again one pull started it, so I happily headed for home, knowing it's still a very reliable engine and ready for use at sea. No fish were killed or eaten in the making of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.